Well, thanks so much for joining us today on Living Local Carolina. I love being in the studio, especially when I get to talk to authors, and I'm joined by Desiree Middleton. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful.
Awesome.
Why don't you go ahead and tell our viewers your style of writing?
So I've recently developed a new style of writing. I'm into urban fiction novels now. I just released my second back in November of 2023, and it is a series called Married to the Enemy. It's very exciting. It gives me so much excitement because I'm able to allow my imagination to just take over and run wild. And so those two books are very much full of plot twists, full of a lot of murder mystery if you're into that. Full of all of the things that you would probably see in a Tubi movie.
I love it. You're actually the first author that I've had in here that writes that sort of mystery genre, so that's really interesting. Have you always been interested in this since you were a kid? I mean, you published your first book in 2019, right?
Yes, so I published my first book in 2019, and it's called Finding the Beauty in Ugly Situations. And it's more so about my life, about myself, things that I had gone through and how I still remained positive and was able to overcome those things. And then after I wrote that book, I'm like, well, there's not much else I can write about myself.
Not yet.
And so I was like, I still wanted to write, I still wanted to release books, but I was like, what else can I write about? And I started following this author named Ashley Antoinette. And she writes these books, these like urban fiction books, and I read like 3 of her series in like a month. And I was like, wait a minute, I really, really like this. Like, I can create some characters like this. And so I sat down one day and I started doing it, and it was just coming just like that. And I think the best part about it is that you can make up people. You can make your characters do what you want them to do, how you want them to do it, whatever direction you want them to go. Like, my imagination just takes over.
Oh, I love it so much. So when you talk about twists, can you give me an example, or is that giving too much away?
No, yeah, I can absolutely give you an example. So the crazy thing about the first book that I wrote, urban fiction that I wrote, Married to the Enemy, when I wrote that book, I was going through a divorce myself.
Oh.
So many people were interested in the book because they thought it was a tell-all about my marriage. So eyes were on it before the book was even completed. And so when I first released it, the book sold about 250 copies within the first 2 weeks. And that was a goal for me,
That's
one
awesome.
that I didn't think I was going to achieve, because I was like, wow. And it was because, everybody wanted to know, what is she going to talk about in this book? And then I think when they actually read it and realized it had nothing to do with me or my marriage, it was more like, oh, wait a minute, but it's still a good book. So one of the plot twists in the book, the series, in the first book, Melody is the main character. She's a young lawyer who is trying to find herself and trying to find her way. She meets a man, she falls in love, gets married. But in the second book, we find that Melody's perfect husband might just be the enemy.
We'll leave it at that, folks. But you are now working on another book with your daughters.
Yes.
Where can people stay updated on this sort of thing?
So I am on all social media. I am on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all under @AuthorD. And then I also have my website, which is www.authordesiree.com. And I pretty much post every day, literally, on all sites. So I'm pretty active on social media. So I normally try to keep people updated as to what I have going on through my social media sites. I actually just launched my online bookstore. And so, of course, I'm going to be selling my books through the bookstore, but I'm also going to be including other authors' pieces and works through the bookstore as well.
All right, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you for having me.
Absolutely. Guys, if you want to check out some of her books, where's that website that people can find again?
It's www.authordesiree.com.